Welcome to our first thematic panel of the Virtual Investment Forum. This panel, with the theme, The Future of Ocean and Coastal Tourism in the Eastern Caribbean, will focus on the current state of the ocean and coastal tourism in the region, trends in the sector's future, opportunities for investment in the tourism infrastructure and services, unique selling points of each country, and success stories or case studies of profitable investments in the region. We are delighted to announce that Tanisha Brown Williams, Sector Senior Specialist for Tourism at the Inter-American Development Bank, will be moderating today's session. She will be joined by the following esteemed panelists: Petra Roach, CEO, Grenada Tourism Authority; Georgia Scarlett, Environmental Manager, Sandals Foundation; and Giselle Sousa, Blue Nautical Stations Officer, Forum Oceano from Portugal. I will now hand it over to our moderator who will get us started on today's session. Over to you, moderator.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Sanya. It's a pleasure to moderate today's panel where we'll explore the current state of ocean and coastal tourism and everything that was outlined by our chair. Now, why is this discussion so important? Well, according to a leading international organization, coastal and marine tourism is a key driver of the growing sustainable blue economy, and by 2030, it is projected to grow by 26%, becoming the largest value-adding segment of the ocean economy. In the Eastern Caribbean, many countries are deeply reliant on coastal and marine tourism, much of it linked to coral reefs, either directly through scuba diving, snorkeling, etc., or indirectly through beach tourism, seafood access, and so forth. This highlights the urgent need for sustainable management and investment in coastal tourism infrastructure to promote long-term economic growth, protect the environment, and build resilience across the region. So today, our panel will unpack some of these issues for a very stimulating discussion. Welcome, ladies, and let's kickstart the discussion with Petra. So Petra, earlier this year, Grenada hosted a highly successful Caribbean tourism organization Sustainable Tourism Conference. As a destination management organization, you likely engaged in valuable discussions with both potential and existing tourism investors. So please tell us, what innovative strategies are being implemented to attract sustainable tourism investments in Grenada?
And thank you so much, Tanisha. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here participating in this very important discussion. And again, the CTO conference on sustainable tourism was actually a big highlight for us for 2024, because ultimately sustainability is so intrinsic to Grenada's DNA. And we certainly, as a tourism authority, have taken the focus and put it on integrating environmental stewardship, community involvement, cultural heritage preservation, and made those into the cornerstone or the pillars really of what we do as the tourism industry. And that ultimately is our commitment to ensuring that we have a long-term economic growth and a viable industry. And of course, these pillars that I'm talking about are deeply aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And that is really about how can we balance tourism growth with environmental protection, with that community upliftment, and also the cultural integrity. And in fact, if you think about our brand, Pure Grenada, that speaks really to who we are and the authenticity, the integrity that we attach not only to our brand proposition, but also to the experience proposition. So in terms of companies that are seeking to invest in Grenada, I think that from the get-go, they understand who we are, and therefore, you know, that combined with us seeking investments, which were very aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, helps us to ensure that we keep on the right path, and also that we bring along the other industries like agriculture, like energy, like the creative economy, etc. And I know that there is a lot of conversation at the minute about sustainability, and we not only have talked the talk, but we've certainly ensured that that has been integrated into everything that we're doing. So again, you look at what we have in terms of that rich agricultural heritage, and there are programs like the Grenada Network of Rural Women Producers, which have created synergies between the local farmers and the tourism industry. And again, at the same time, you're looking at a generally disenfranchised group where they now have the opportunity to drive local entrepreneurship. They have the opportunity to provide fresh organic produce to the hotels and restaurants, thereby enhancing the sustainability and boosting the local economy and creating jobs in agriculture, in tourism, in hospitality. They're promoting sustainable production through organic farming, through local sourcing, and then, you know, supporting biodiversity conservation through sustainable land use practices. And through that, literally, we have the surgence, the introduction of things like farm tourism, eco cottages, which are attractive for that eco-conscious tourist. And then you also look at new resorts like Our Six Senses in La Sagesse, which has incorporated sustainability into their design. So it's not just about the minimal environmental impact whilst offering luxury experiences, but also looking at what we can do in terms of ensuring that the community and the agricultural industry, technology, etc., is also involved. And, you know, tourism is such a critical part of most islands in the Caribbean, and we need to ensure that we balance that growth with the conservation and community benefits. So, for example, we had in 2004, Ivan, it decimated an area which was called Molyneux Bay, and we actually then installed the world's first underwater sculpture park, which really was to be the catalyst for regeneration of that area and really looking at recreating the biodiversity of the marine life there. And out of that, we now have, you know, an initiative really, which has a lot of the persons who are living in the community benefiting from that as their everyday job. We also have a vibrant diving sector where people come because they want to dive the first underwater sculpture park. And we have an attraction which has great commercial benefits because of the cruise lines, etc., that are coming and they want to do day trips. And we've expanded that footprint to now also have an underwater sculpture park in Carriacou as well. And we're also doing a lot of work in terms of all mangrove restoration. And again, the mangroves were decimated by Ivan as well. And the Grenada Fund for Conservation has done a sterling job in terms of replanting. And now we're also introducing things like bird watching, because the mangroves then become the habitat for dozens of migratory and resident birds. And it also is protecting the coastline. And also from an ecotourism perspective, you know, we've introduced things like kayaking, etc. And I think one of the important parts to the mangrove restoration is understanding that mangroves actually capture 5 times more carbon than most other forest types. So that's really important in terms of that fight against the climate change. So ultimately, for us, we literally have signed up and subscribed to the whole ethos of sustainability. and have become the champion for sustainability throughout the Caribbean. And I think that investors who are looking to have that as one of their main determinants for building, etc., see Grenada as a perfect model and example.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Petra, for those insightful comments. One of the many points that you made that resonated with me is remaining authentic to your brand, Pure Grenada. I think that's a starting point, and it's an excellent starting point to attract investors who are like-minded. So thank you for those comments. So moving on to Gisela. Forum Oceano, manages the Portuguese Sea Cluster, which includes over 160 members from various sectors of the blue economy, such as public and private companies, business associations, and educational institutions, among others. So Gisela, tell us, with your extensive experience, the extensive experience of your organization, how can countries effectively leverage the unique coastal and oceanic assets to distinguish themselves and gain a competitive edge in the global tourism market?
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Good morning to everyone, or good afternoon. It really depends. I'm really happy to be here today with you all. I would like to greet my panel colleagues and everyone that is watching us. The theme of this panel is very interesting. Regarding the fact that the ocean and coastal tourism is so important, not only for the world, but also for this particular region. With the increasing global focus on sustainable tourism, we're always talking about this, but it's very important. And of course, the resilience against climate change, the region faces both opportunities and challenges as it looks to the future. We're always talking about the future because it is so important to see where we're going next. So not dwell on the past, but also looking forward to the future. This sector, tourism sector, attracts millions of visitors annually, drawn by the iconic offerings such as the white sand beaches, the coral reef, the luxury resorts. We have some key activities such as the beach relaxation, the snorkeling, diving, as Petra was talking about, and of course cruise tourism. However, there are some challenges. We're talking about over tourism in some areas, strains infrastructure, and of course the natural ecosystems that are being destroyed. Climate change has been really bad, let's say, in issues like the coral bleaching, the coastal erosion, the rising of the sea levels. So this is threatening the very attractions tourists come to enjoy. The future of the ocean and coastal tourism, particularly in the Eastern Caribbean, in my opinion, and what we do in here, will be shaped in several emerging trends that we are seeing globally. At first, we have the sustainability and ecotourism. So the travelers are increasingly seeking to eco-friendly experiences, pushing destinations to adopt sustainable practices. Right now, we have a lot of people, a lot of travelers that are very worried about their ecological footstep, let's say, in the environment. We might have initiatives such as coral reef restoration, marine protected areas, also technological innovations. We have some digital tools, for instance, VR or augmented reality, that will enable destinations to showcase their attractions to a global audience while also promoting the conservation of the environment. Also, we have the diversification of offerings, what we have to offer. So this region is expanding beyond what is traditional beach tourism. And as you were talking about the authenticity, it's very important. People are also looking for authentic experiences where they feel connected to the culture of the local they are visiting. And of course, we have cultural heritage tours, gastronomic experiences, adventure activities, and it will also help reduce pressure on natural attractions and promote local communities. Of course, this is possible with investments. So we need investments in climate resilient infrastructures, for instance, hurricane-proof resorts, flood barriers, conservation of these natural barriers like mangroves, what we're talking the other a few minutes ago, and coral reefs also protects the coastline while enhancing the tourist experiences. Um, Beyond that, having a policy and regional collaboration will help a lot in expanding the marine protected areas, ensuring the conservation, of course, of marine biodiversity with regional cooperation with other nations, expand, internationalize in order to optimize resources for sustainable tourism, for instance, and also green certification. They are very important because they will bring more credibility to their businesses now identified with environmentally friendly practices. I would like these last few minutes to talk about a little example from Portugal because I think it's important. I say many times that the good practices are to be copied. So I'd like to show you an example, and of course giving you the the all the tools to connect with us if needed, so we can work together. I think it's very important because together we are stronger. I'm constantly saying this also. So we have in here, I'm here representing Forum Oceano that coordinates the network of nautical stations of Portugal. It is basically a network of partnerships with local actors, such as tour operators, hotels, restaurants, and others. Right now, we have 38 nautical stations from the north to the south of Portugal, to the coast and to the inland. You're like, how is that possible? As long as there's water, it's possible to have a nautical station. So I'll tell you everyone to look a little bit for our website. And I feel like the Eastern Caribbeans have in here a huge opportunity to develop something similar. And of course, Forum Oceano and me that is working on this project will be very excited to create synergies. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gisela. Excellent. Thank you for sharing those comments. And one thing that resonated with me from your comments is the importance of eco-certifications. I have personal experience with eco-certifications and labels throughout the region, and it is critical for that aspect or that component to be applied to our coastal tourism assets. In fact, the Booking.com's Sustainable Travel Research Report for 2024 indicated that almost half of travelers who were sampled indicated that tourism assets or tourism products are more appealing when there is an eco-label attached to it. So I just wanted to expand on that point, which I believe is really, really important in our discussion. So thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on to Georgia. So Georgia, the Sandals Foundation runs several impactful programs focused on ocean conservation, including the Guy Harvey Save Our Seas initiative, the establishment of sustainable coral nurseries, and the creation of marine sanctuaries. Really excellent work, among other things. So what lessons can you share with us with regards to successful tourism projects in the Eastern Caribbean?
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to my colleagues on the panel. As a background, Sandals Foundation is 15 years old, and we are the philanthropic arm of the Sandals Resorts International. We have done work in 9 islands in the Caribbean, in the Eastern Caribbean, representing Antigua and St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, etc. Our work centers around strengthening the community because we only exist because of strong communities. That's where we work, that's where we live, and that's where the future becomes brighter when you strengthen communities. In our work, we operate under 3 pillars of community, education, and environment. And so all the work that we do spans those 3 arms, just to ensure that the community is strengthened after we're present. In St. Lucia and in St. Vincent and in Grenada, we have done lots of work over the years. To follow on what Petra said, we have done lots of work with Grenada Fund for Conservation. We have provided protection to the Woburn protected area, planting thousands of mangroves over the years to strengthen that area. And as she said, because of the strengthening of the area, birds are now here even more, with over 40 species of birds. Some are migratory that people can come and see. With this insight of the number of birds that are there, we have recently constructed with Grenada Fund for Conservation a bird tower. So when you go to the bird tower in Telescope, you not only get to see the birds, there are binoculars present, there are collateral about the birds, and this also will be welcoming to a different kind of tourist to now see that there's more than sun and sun, there's also birds. And so that works well into the pure Grenada aspect, as Petra had said earlier. And also when we do it, we don't forget the community. And so the community is also being strengthened along with the infrastructure. And so we're about to begin training for community personnel in Telescope to be able to lead community tours, because it's very important to strengthen the community bottom up. It's one thing to say something that we hope to do, but the community has to guide us along with the work that we hope to do. Grenada Fund for Conservation does work here along with lots of schools, because we know as a foundation that you have to let people know why something is important, eventually let them take care of it. And so that we can build stewards for today and tomorrow, we do extensive community training and workshops, as well as school presentations, to let people know the importance of the marine space, of the terrestrial space, trees, birds, etc., so they can eventually take care of it. Along with Grenada Fund for Conservation, we also work with Grenada Coral Reef Foundation, and we did a project in Waltham some years ago in the marine space to build a marine nursery, a coral nursery there. And we informed the community of why it's important, why corals are important, and how they can play a part. We also got 10 community persons, men, women, along with youths, to train them in PADI certified courses to become divers, to take care of the coral nursery there. So we understand the importance of that, of the bottom-up approach of taking care of a marine space. Also in Grenada, we worked with ECA a few years ago with strengthening farming as well. As we know, there's a great connection between what happens inland to what it impacts the coast. And so with teaching backyard farmers about composting, that has multiplier effects of increased output, which is very important to a farmer who is doing it. You get better yields from compost because it's organic farming, as well as you reuse your solid waste. Up to 60% in some cases of our waste is organic, that you have treasure in your trash. And so we teach backyard farmers that, and they see the power of it. It was a community-led initiative, and so they work together in clusters to all put together their organic trash to later make compost, and then they all share it together. It was very successful. In St. Lucia, we have worked extensively with Clare Caribbean, again, with the bottom-up approach. Community fishers were present, and they had an interest in the ocean. And so we strengthened their capacity by making them coral gardeners. We gave them PADI certified courses. Clare Caribbean also reached out to us to say they think this is a skill that could be a national skill. And so we work with them to develop a course, which is now a part of the NCT vet, so a person can become a coral gardener. And as you know, globally, there is a great need for coral support because of the bleaching and all those other things that are happening. And so we work with them, that course exists. We also supported them by strengthening their vessel because we understand NGOs, limited funds at times. We supported a sustainable mechanism. And so guests from our resorts who are sustainable guests can now go to a resort in St. Lucia and participate in coral restoration, and the funds go back into our funding to help other projects in the marine space. It's very important of what we do, again, because new travelers are more into sustainable activities, because we know that it's important to take care of our resources as a group that does and lives in the Caribbean. We work here, we live here, our children grow up here. We want to do our part in taking care of that. And so with all the community work that we have done and we will continue to do is around this. We have just gone into St. Vincent this year as a body, and so by next year we'll be doing several work in St. Vincent. But currently we are doing work with spay and neuter work. As you know, stray animals can cause nuisance to many persons in terms of spreading diseases, as well as other kinds of things. And then just generally, dogs and cats are loved by many and we want to take care of them. And so we support that work as well. So we'll continue to work with our excellent partners. Nothing we do is top down. We ask, what do you need and how we can support you? And then we work together to help.
Thank you, Georgia. Quite a powerful statement. The community has to guide us with regards to the work that we're doing and we want to do. Just pulling that out of your statement. And then I've also noted that Sandals, the group, recently was awarded the Green Fins digital membership, which is of course promoting more sustainable diving and snorkeling within the region. So excellent, thank you so much. Now, we know that public-private partnerships are vital because they enable the pooling of resources, expertise, and risk between the public and private sectors, ensuring the successful delivery of large-scale projects. They drive innovation, efficiency, and sustainability in infrastructural development, often leading to enhanced public services and economic growth. So Petra, please tell us, how can public-private partnerships enhance the region's tourism infrastructure?
Well, I think Georgia just gave you a Bible of how it can. I think at the end of the day, it is so important, with the limited resources that governments have and the demand on those resources, whether it's education, whether it's medical, etc., that we have these public-private partnerships. Ultimately, it is about the combining of resources and expertise and innovation, but it's really important that that is then fed into the regulatory and developmental priorities of the government. So, in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of community involvement, innovation, sustainability, policy support, risk management, it certainly is better for us to be hand-holding. I think that one of the most important things as well is the talent development, because at the same time, you don't want for there to be just a transplanting of expertise without having that shared with the local community, without ensuring that there is that ownership that Georgia was talking about. So, certainly in Grenada, we have had public-private partnerships with, organizations and initiatives like the Maurice Bishop International Airport expansion that involved not only the Grenadian government, but also international private sector partners, so that we could expand and modernize the airport, get a new terminal and upgrade the facilities. And that's ongoing at the minute. In terms of Renegade Rum Distillery, for example, that again is private sector innovation combined with government incentives. They also have a cooperative of local farmers who will supply them with the sugarcane, etc., so that that is developed into a sustainable tourism attraction, again, using locally sourced and organic production methods. So, one of the things that would be great was if we had a massive pot of money and we could do everything that we want to. But again, in terms of shaping out the DNA of what the destination proposition is, those public and private partnerships are really critical to enhancing the tourism infrastructure, whilst ensuring that we are still committed to the, the policies that government is driving forward.
Lovely, thank you for that, Petra. Gisela, in 2 minutes, if you can tell me what role technology plays in shaping the future of ocean and coastal tourism. And this question stems from me going through the website of your organization and realizing that there's a keen focus and commitment to the digitalization process. So if you can share with us what role it plays in the future of ocean and coastal tourism.
Okay, so in here in Fórum Oceano, we have a lot of areas of expertise. Let's say I'm with the nautical tourism, and we in here because it's so important that we are constantly talking about it is digitalization. So I think that everything we have right now, we need to make it more digital, and we have several projects. So I told you one of them, but we have a lot. For instance, we have Portugal Blue Digital Hub. So it's a hub of different areas that its focus is on digitalization in order, especially regarding the enterprises. So in here we work very closely with enterprises because we think that it's very important, and working together will be more effective. In coastal tourism, we are also in this project by working with our nautical stations in order to make it even easier for people coming from outside to get in touch with us to see what we have to offer in a more easy way. So right now, if you want to schedule a visit or want to visit another country, we don't go to the library to see a manual, not a manual, but some guides. We are going to the internet, so this is very important for us, and we are constantly working on this theme. I think that I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. So, Georgia, a recent tourism policy review in the Caribbean revealed that climate change may not be adequately addressed in destination plans and policies. So, please share with us your thoughts on how the region can adapt or adopt rather climate resilient strategies in its tourism development plans.
Well, one thing I can share is what we do in communities in terms of making communities climate resilient. Now, I can think of three main things. One thing is that we do extensive tree planting. Now, as a rule, all trees, no matter where they're located, have excellent carbon sequestration benefits. And while that's a mitigation aspect, the adaptation aspect of it is that trees, no matter what they are, provide excellent support in terms of adaptation. So, coastal areas, as I said in Grenada, we have planted thousands of mangrove trees, and that reduces coastal flooding. And if you come more inland, we also provide forest trees. In Jamaica, we planted over 7,000 trees in the UN heritage sites. In Antigua, we planted hundreds of trees. We have done lots of tree planting in forested areas, and many forested areas have slopes, and that the trees will provide, the roots will provide support to the soil to reduce landslide, and that builds the climate resilience of that space. Another type of tree we plant, which sometimes people forget, are food-bearing trees, because within climate change, there is going to be some aspects of food insecurity because of the loss that is likely to happen. And so if we keep planting trees in preparation for that, it strengthens resilience in terms of food. And that is also very important. Another area that we support is in water. Still, many Caribbean farmers rely solely on precipitation in watering their crops. And as you know, precipitation levels are variable with climate change. And so to strengthen farmers, we have provided irrigation infrastructure to them to support them. So when rain is not here, they know what to do. So we taught them why irrigation is important and how to use it. Because again, this sometimes is newer technology depending on the farmer. Also, for water, we have done a project called Watering Schools, where, because, for example, currently there's lots of rain in many parts of the Caribbean because we're still in the hurricane season, and it just falls to the ground. And so we have put in water catchment projects in schools to ensure that water is collected, grey water, yes, but rather than using potable water plants, because we encourage food security in our schools as well, we ensure that that water goes towards something else. And finally, the last thing we do, we provide support all along the lines of the DRM cycle. So before a hurricane hits, before a disaster hits, we have provided disaster training through YEAC in Grenada to support tourism entities about what to do when a disaster comes. And after Beryl just happened, we provided support to Carriacou, and we provided support to fishers here in Jamaica. It's very important to provide support on the ground to communities who need it. And we have done those things.
Excellent. Thank you, Georgia. I think it's safe to say that following this event, we can have 3 separate webinars to unpack the rich information that is being shared here. We do not have enough time. But having said that, we do have time for some questions from the audience, and then we'll come back to the panel for any final thoughts. So let's start with a question for Gisela from Brandon. What role do you think ocean observations will play in protecting coastal and marine tourism, coastal and marine tourism infrastructure from extreme weather?
Thank you so much for the question. So, ocean observations are crucial. They are very important mainly for protecting coastal and marine tourism infrastructure from extreme weather events. Right now, I think that there are a lot of companies in here in Portugal that are investing in these types of infrastructures and to collect data, because it will help for instance, real-time monitoring and forecasting for what's going on, and to be able to see beforehand what is going on with the ocean, and how to if there's something really bad, how can we try to make it easier, or try to warn other people of what's coming, for instance. Also, we have the understanding the climate trends. So in here, for instance, in Portugal right now, we have a huge storm, and now we have more sunny days. So this will help understand the climate trends. Of course, we are talking about the climate change, we're talking about global warming, but it will help us a lot. And of course, the ecosystem protection, like I said previously, for instance, the coral reefs and the protection of the habitats, it will help, because I think that it is important to have various ocean observations, or observatories in this case, in various countries, because it will help to gain knowledge, so we can also share with each other and see how in different countries things are going, and how can we share the knowledge and make it even easier for us to understand what's going on, some things that sometimes we can't even explain.
Thank you so much, Gisela. We have a question for Petra. What are some of the best practices implemented by Grenada Tourism Authority that, in your view, could be easily replicated in St. Lucia and St. Vincent? Any lessons learned or potential collaborations with these countries?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I think that we've moved on now from the older days when people were working and operating in silos. And I think that the Caribbean is so appreciative of the important role that tourism has to play, that they recognize that together we stand so much stronger. We've recently worked with St. Lucia in terms of sharing best practices for our underwater sculpture park. They want to open their own, and rather than starting from scratch, again, we went through the whole process, did the introductions in terms of the sculptor that we've used, etc., and really shared with them our research, as well as the data collection on visitation, on the potential for commercial success, etc. And with Guyana, for example, we're actually working with them currently to start a new service, airline service between Grenada and Guyana. And again, going out and doing cooperative marketing together, understanding that with a new air route that both countries are going to be benefiting. With St. Vincent, we've traditionally done a lot in terms of the airlift as well, in terms of that inter-regional operation, both with SVG Air as well as Inter-Caribbean. But we're also now working with them in terms of trying to get a single shared space for yachting, especially. And that is with one check-in rather than multiple check-ins to each of the destinations. So again, having the opportunity for a more efficient, convenient check-in process then really is a compelling offer to those yachties in the region. Therefore, it allows us to grow the business rather than that the business is seen to be, you know, one party is benefiting more than the other. So again, in collaborations like those, it is about building the strength of the Caribbean region, creating a very compelling narrative, getting the network of stakeholders to work together so that ultimately there is stronger return for and outcomes for everybody.
Thank you, Petra. And I want to echo your sentiments by saying that it's not competing. We're not competing, but we're co-peting.
Yes.
So thank you for that. We have a question for Georgia. Georgia, does Sandals practice rainwater harvesting at its hotels? Is it self-sufficient in its water use?
Hi, so as a foundation, my work is primarily in communities. And so when in the community space, we do water harvesting projects as the funds come in or as we align funds each year to do so. So many schools currently have it. On our resorts, which is a more operational angle, so I can't necessarily speak to what they do, but I do know that there are some resorts that have water conservation practices and strategies in place, and there is a plan to do so more over time to become more sustainable in the future.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have about 5 minutes remaining, but I really want to get some closing thoughts from the panelists. So in about 30 seconds, could you just, any concluding remarks that you would wish to share with the audience? So let's start with Petra.
I wanted to say that tourism is truly a magnificent industry with so much potential. We just need to ensure that we've got the guardrails to protect not only ourselves now, but the youth, the future generations. I feel it's very important for persons who are coming in to invest in the region to understand that cultural integrity, that developmental opportunities for the population are critical to any success. And I really want to ensure that we are in a space where, having benefited from the resources and the expertise that are coming in, that we see more people like Butch Stewart, who, you know, are the pioneers of new ways of doing business, who are taking the Caribbean brand, you know, internationally, and, you know, in a well-respected manner, and that in the future we can see a lot more of those examples worldwide.
Thank you, Petra. Closing remarks from Gisela?
Yes, after this speech from Petra, it will be a little hard. But thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel like we needed 3 separate webinars just to talk a little bit about what everyone wants to talk about. But I think that in here, in my close remarks, I would like to say that Portugal and Forum Ocean is totally open to collaborate in any way that you think it's benefiting you, and also create synergies with 2 different regions that can learn a lot with each other. So thank you so much, and I hope you like this little bit of the session.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Gisela. So Georgia, closing remarks.
Well, I just want to say, as Petra said, investing in the Caribbean is great. And it's important when you do so that you invest also in communities, that your investment should go beyond the walls of the resort, because the community lives, the better community, the better the product, because their community is a part of the product. In the Caribbean, we have amazing people with warm smiles and warm hearts. And if the school where their children go to are made better, it's better. If the food that they eat is strengthened by our investment, it's better. And so support communities for a better product.
Lovely. The better the community, the better the product. I think that's a really great way to end. So thank you to our esteemed panelists for sharing such valuable insights today, and to everyone in the audience for your engagement. The discussions we've had highlighted today spotlights the tremendous potential of coastal tourism in the Caribbean, the importance of sustainable practices, and the need for continued innovation and collaboration between the public and private sectors. As we've heard, the future of this industry depends on our ability to adapt, invest, and protect the very resources that make this region so unique. So let's continue to work together to ensure that the Caribbean remains a world-leading destination for tourism while safeguarding our environment and supporting our communities. Thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing the positive impact of the ideas shared today. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Many thanks to our speakers, Gisela, Petra, and Georgia, and of course to our moderator, Tanisha. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights on tourism and, the ways forward as we approach really realizing the potential and the benefits associated with the blue economy growth through the perspective and the scope of the tourism, which is one of the key elements. So thank you. And at this time, I would like to announce that we will have a short 15-minute virtual coffee break. So, if you haven't had your morning coffee, time to wake yourselves up. If this first session didn't wake you up, it should have. But if you need some coffee to get your day fully started, this will be the time to do that. It's the 15-minute virtual coffee break. And please also take the opportunity to explore the virtual platform. Do network and interact with the virtual booths. Again, you can access the virtual booths using the Expo tab that is across on the top of the virtual platform. If you're not seeing the word Expo, then you can just click on the 3 dots depending on your device, and then you will be able to access it there. After the virtual coffee break, we'll continue the virtual forum with our first country presentation, which will be from Grenada. And it will be a short promotional video developed by Grenada's Investment Promotion Agency, and we're sure that you will enjoy that video. The video will only be played once, so we invite everyone to join the session right after the 15-minute break. And after the video, we will have our guest speaker of the day, Dr. Dane Budo, who will talk about innovations and opportunities for sustainable aquaculture and fisheries. So thank you very much to our first panel. Thank you for all of you who have been joining us for this morning's session, and see you back after our virtual coffee break. Thank you.
Do we go back?